y no rapeáis bien, ni en el idioma de nosotros. Who are you? Yo el loco como con tono ronco. I am the flow bomb so cold just like snowball. Nah, tu inglés no te lo compro. Y yo a vos menos si no rapeáis bien, ni en el idioma de nosotros. Who are you? Yo el loco.
Yo, what's good, everybody? What's good, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the MOP podcast. Today, I have a special guest, my bad. He was with us a couple of months ago. It's an honor, it's a pleasure. Like I said before we went live, it's an honor, it's a pleasure to talk with you about basketball. Today, in the MOP podcast, we got Bruce Bernstein from the 48-minute podcast. Maybe you have seen him with the Giannis interview. So it's an honor, man, to have you here. And once again, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you, Mario. It's always fun to be with you. As we were saying before we started, I love talking with smart guys, and you're a smart guy.
Man, that means the world to me. That means the world to me. I started learning about basketball and creating my little platform just a couple of years ago. So I'm trying to always learn from people that know what they are talking about. Like you said, and obviously you are a great person to talk about basketball. So let's get into it. Once again, thank you for being here. Shout out to everybody that's going to be watching this episode. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like this video and support us, because we are bringing the heat in Spanish and in English. I don't see many channels doing this, so we are like the pioneers of this. So I'm very honored to have you here. So, man, let's get right into it. What are your what is your general take about advanced stats? Well, let's start from there.
Okay, to me, many of them are really kind of hard to understand. Some of them do make sense to me. I'll give you an example. Player impact estimate, right? The top 10 guys in this category could easily be seen as the best players in the league. But what do the numbers mean? I mean, Nikola Jokic is number one at 23.4. 23.4 what? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what it means, you know? Or like usage percentage, right? The leaders are the best players on their teams, okay, which makes sense because you want your best player to take the most shots. But it doesn't mean that you're a great player, because you might have a high usage percentage on a team that's not very good. So to me, you know, that one is kind of limited. Some other ones I think are more like team stats that get kind of put onto individuals. I'll give you an example. Pace, okay? This seems like more of a team stat. 3 of the top 4 guys in pace are on Indiana, which plays fast and is a very good team. But 4 of the top 7, okay, are on the Wizards, who are a terrible team.
Horrible.
that plays fast, but also plays no defense. So those stats just tell me very little.
It's like we need to add some context to those stats, right? It's like, oh, you have 4 of the 7 players with the most pace in the league, but as you mentioned, they are playing for the Wizards, and the Wizards, to me, I think they're one of the worst, if not the worst, defensive team in the league right now. I'm not a big fan of advanced stats. Obviously, me being a Joker fan, even though some people think that I started following Jokic because he was the advanced stats king, I didn't follow Jokic because of that. I started liking Jokic because of his game. Like I said before we went live, I'm more like a type of eye test guy. And you know, there is some like division between two groups: the eye test guys and the stats guy, the guys that their Bible is the advanced numbers or typical stats.
Yeah, I mean, there are some guys when you watch them play, like, all right, I'm a big Boston Celtics fan, okay? So I really like watching their guards play defense, right? Drew Holiday and Derek White. I call those guys the wardens because they lock people up, okay? But all right, so when I watch Derek White play, he's making it difficult for the other team to bring the ball across half court, which means they're eating up shot clock time before they even have a chance to start their offense. So by the time they really have a chance to start looking for like a pass to make, they've already taken 7, 8, 9 seconds off of the shot clock. So now that 24-second clock is more like a 15 or a 16-second clock, which means that when everybody else kind of digs in on defense, they're making teams take bad shots. I don't know that I've seen a stat that really describes it, but like you said, when you take the eye test and you watch a guy do that, you say, that's winning basketball.
Yep, and they got two guys that can do that, Holiday and Derek White. Obviously, before they got Marcus Smart, I haven't watched a lot of Boston Celtics, but I will try to, because most of my teams, I mean, my team is in the West, and the conference that I like the most is the West. But I'll look more for Boston Celtics, and obviously with defense, they got a nice squad. Let me ask you this with Tatum. How high is Tatum in the MVP candidacy for you this season? Because to me, it's like he has had Porzingis, and then he added obviously Holiday. Something similar with Giannis, that they added Lillard. What do you think about Jason Tatum candidacy to an MVP this year or in the future?
Well, I think, prior to the season, I had predicted that Giannis would be the MVP. But what I've seen so far, I have to go with Jokic as winning the MVP. I would say Tatum is right there with those two guys, maybe even has edged a little bit in front of Giannis, because the Bucks are off to a kind of a tough start. They're only just, maybe 6-4 right now. And the thing about Tatum that looks different to me from last year, he's obviously gotten much stronger, and he's got much more purpose when he makes a move with the ball. He used to be, he didn't always take that extra dribble and get all the way to the basket. He's getting a lot more easy buckets this year. He can still make those 3-pointers, and his assist numbers are pretty good, but he's a pretty good defender. He scores from anywhere on the court. I'm not going to say he's better than Jokic, because I don't think he's better than Jokic right now. But a lot of times guys get the MVP if their team has an amazing year and they were close in the past. I mean, I go back like 25 years, okay, when Karl Malone won the most valuable player in a year where I think the voters thought, oh, it's his turn, okay?
Yep.
He's been close. But it's almost kind of like a lifetime achievement award as opposed to the most valuable player. I mean, I never, ever in my life thought Karl Malone was more valuable than Michael Jordan, even though Karl Malone's a Hall of Fame player. But if the Celtics should end up the regular season, and here's where those regular season stats, I know we're going to talk about that stuff later. The regular season stats determine who's going to be the MVP. So if the Celtics were to go like 62 wins and 20 losses, and they have the best record in the league by a couple games, he'll probably end up winning it because he's going to average close to 30 points. Okay. But it's hard for me to say that anybody's better than Jokic right now.
It's crazy because obviously Jamal Murray has been out. Jokic has been doing his thing. Now he's top 10. He's ranked top 10 in points per game, assists per game, rebounds per game, and field goal percentage. I think Jokic is going to run away with the MVP. Hopefully he stays healthy. And Denver is on a run. They beat yesterday the Clippers. Wow, with the Clippers, I don't know what the hell is going on with them, but I think it's gonna be a nice MVP run. What I like the fact that in the top 10 Kia MVP ladder that the NBA releases, I really like the fact that I see young guys like Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. When we talk about that, how much worried are you? Because I've seen a lot of posts, there's a lot of fans still from LeBron, fans from Curry, KD, Kawhi, and they say, oh, they are going to retire in the near future. How much worried are you that maybe the passing of the torch? How much worried are you from these new superstars? Do you think that they can reach that level? They can become like new faces of the league, obviously with Anthony Edwards and many other players?
Well, Anthony Edwards is just, he's definitely in the running for MVP right now. I mean, I'm not going to say he's in the top 3, but I could see him in the top 5. I mean, look, Minnesota has beaten Denver. They've beaten Boston. They're the best defensive team in the league. and he is just a guy who just gets buckets. I mean, on Sunday night, you probably saw it because you like the West Coast teams. The dunk that he had over Dario Saric on Sunday night when Denver played Golden, that was filthy.
It reminded me. Sorry for interrupting. The one that he dunked on Watanabe. Do you remember when he dunked on Watanabe like a crazy dunk? It was crazy. It was crazy.
Watanabe, he looked like a little speed bump that you drive over in the parking lot. You know, that's what he looked like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Anthony Edwards to me is, you know, I don't think he'll be a starter in the All-Star game, okay? Because that's all depending on the fan voting for the most part, right? But I mean, he'll definitely be an All-Star. And Minnesota, I mean, if you watch those guys play, they're a tough, rugged, relentless team. But they also got guys who can get buckets. I mean, you know, Karl Anthony Towns is out there, you know, shooting threes. He's averaging 19 and 9. Rudy Gobert has really kind of returned to his form this year, averaging like 12 and 12, couple blocks. But Anthony Edwards is the engine that makes that team go. Really, he really does.
It's incredible, and I really like Minnesota because Denver, when they faced Minnesota last year in the playoff, Minnesota didn't have Naz Reid. They didn't have Jaden McDaniels. I think McDaniels has a case to be made that he's arguably one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA. He's 6'11". I saw Jamal Murray struggling against him. And it's always important to have a tall player in the perimeter that can guard those type of guards. And I think Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, they got Nickeil Alexander-Walker obviously too. And they are a great team, man. They are second, I think, in the West. Yeah, they got 8-2 record. And Ant-Man to me he's on a verge of superstardom. I don't know if you agree with right?
No, he definitely is. And they also have a really nice mix of veterans and younger guys on their team. I mean, Mike Conley has been really good for those guys. Okay. You know, you mentioned Nickeil Alexander-Walker coming off the bench. They got Shake Milton coming off the bench. They're just a nice, and they're tough guys, right? I mean, Naz Reid is one of the tough guys in the league, okay? And McDaniels also. So you have guys that can score. You have guys that can rebound. You got guys that can defend. And you have, you know, tough-minded guys, you know, like mentally tough guys. So one of my partners on the 48 Minutes podcast, Michael Freer, predicted before the season he expected Minnesota to be one of the really surprise teams in the league. And when we taped our show this week, he made sure to remind us that he told us that.
I have a similar tape, but with OKC. I predicted that OKC was going to end up number 4th at the end of the regular season. Hopefully that can go. They can go in the right direction. A lot of people talk about the Pacers before the season. I heard a lot of chat about the Pacers, that they are going to be a top 6, top 5 maybe team in the East. I didn't believe maybe in them, but once I started paying attention, especially I saw yesterday's game against Philly, the way that they run the floor, the way that Halliburton, to me, I forgot to say this on my show this morning. It's like, to me, you know that we heard some players that have eyes in the back of their neck, right? But I think Halliburton can play with his eyes closed. To me, it's like he can close his eyes and he already knows where everybody is, and he can deliver the throw. My bad, we are not talking about the NFL. Delivering the passes, he's averaging close to 11 assists. So I think that also is important to give credit to these young players. That's something that I try to do, especially with international players. I don't have to deal with Joel Embiid anymore because now he's from the US. So that's your problem. That's not mine anymore. But you know, it is what it is. Getting into this next topic, when we talk about comparing players, when we talk about ranking players, how much weight should carry the regular season versus the postseason? Because people are gonna say you have a bigger sample size with the regular season. There are 82 games. In the playoff, you can play 4 games. You can play up to 20, 22 games. How much carry do you put when you talk about comparing players in the regular season versus the playoffs?
Well, you know, a lot of people that follow the sport are fantasy league players, right? And fantasy league players care more about regular season stats. So I understand why that matters to them. You want to have guys on your fantasy team that pile up points and other stats and fill up a box score, right? But for me, postseason success is what matters the most. And I look for guys who do the little things that help their teams make the playoffs, but don't always show up in the box score. We talked about a little bit a few minutes ago when I was talking about Boston's guards and how they pressure the ball and make the other team take time off the shot clock. That's not even a stat, okay? But it's the kind of thing that I look for. So who are the guys that set really good screens and get open shots for their teammates? Who's a good defender, both, a lockdown one-on-one guy or in a team setting where you have to cover for a teammate that maybe gets screened and you got to slide over and make a play? Those are the, who boxes out, who tips a loose ball to a teammate, to get another possession. The guys who excel in those areas help their team succeed and make the playoffs. So for me, I look at stats because stats are important, right? But to me, I mean, here's a perfect example of a guy who puts up great stats, but that I don't really have a whole lot of respect for as a player. Zach LaVine, okay?
Yep.
Zach LaVine puts up big numbers, 25 points a game. He's got a big contract, whatever. Zach LaVine's been in the league 9 seasons. His teams have made the playoffs once, okay? So for me, all of those big stats that he has add up to nothing when it comes to the team winning. So for me, I look at a guy like Zach LaVine and say, hey, if I was drafting a fantasy team, I would take Zach LaVine. But if I was putting a real team on the floor, I wouldn't want Zach LaVine.
Me neither. And he's on the trade block, I think.
Good luck trading that contract because he's got like 3 or 4 years left at like huge money.
One like 170 million, something like that. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's whoever signed him to that deal. I don't know. I mean, but the Chicago Bulls, I mean, that's a dumpster fire right there. Yep. I mean, that's a mess. That is a
complete mess. That's a complete mess. Obviously, DeMar DeRozan is also maybe in the trading block. Caruso is a very interesting piece that they can make a trade and get some picks in return. But I think that when I heard people say we should put like 75% into the regular season and 25% in the playoffs, to me it's like that's too much. We obviously, or maybe I said that we can make two different lists. One list for the regular season, one list for the playoffs. It's like if you have to give like a percentage for the regular season and the playoffs, when we talk about comparing and rankings, how much percentage would you give to these two?
And again, it depends on what you're looking for when you follow the sport. I mean, there are fans out there that don't really have a team that they root for hard, right? They have their fantasy team, and that becomes their team that they root for, right? So for fans that are fantasy players, regular season stats are all that matters, because I don't even know if postseason stats. I mean, maybe you can do another league for the postseason. I don't even know because I don't play it.
You don't play fantasy?
No, I don't. No.
Oh, this is my second year playing fantasy basketball, and if I can tell you my team is like a bunch of young players. I had the 10th pick. I was the last pick in the first round, and I took Wemby. Then I took a lot of young players. I like players that play. I don't care if you score 10 points, but I need those 10 points in the 82 games. It's not the same averaging 25 like Booker, that he has missed like 5 games with a calf injury, and then he comes back, then he's out again. This is my second year playing fantasy basketball. I'm not good at it, but
another guy, right? I mean, I've never been a big James Harden fan. Okay. I don't like how he plays. I don't like watching him. When they made that trade to the Clippers, I said, you know what? I just don't see this working out. People are saying, oh, now they're going to make the Western Conference Finals. It's like, well, I could see them maybe making the Western Conference Finals, and I could see them missing the playoffs completely. I just don't, to me, he's not a guy who improves your team chemistry. But he's a great fantasy player his whole career. Lots of points, good numbers on rebounds, lots of assists. So, there's a fantasy league superstar, okay, whose team has never won.
That's a great point that you made. It's like how do you? I mean, how do people in general wants to talk about basketball, or in what aspect of the game? That's a really good point, because people sometimes try to look for players that score. They only focus on players that have a lot of points. Some people focus on defensive players. Some people focus on narrative. Some people talk about different things. But that's the beauty of the sport, right? That we have many things that we can talk about and we can focus in. But I agree with you. I agree with you. If I would have to give a percentage, it would have to be maybe like 50-50. But I agree with you that when I see the results in the playoffs, that's when you get the validation. Mm-hmm. You get your contract in the regular season with the All NBA and all those things, but you make your legacy in the postseason. It's like how many all-time great players were failures in the playoffs? Not many, if not anyone. So like Joel Embiid, I don't want to throw Joel Embiid under the bus. Last 2 years, he has been averaging more than 30 points in the regular season. Then in the playoffs, they drop. That's, to me, a great point too, is that you can have good numbers in the regular season, but do they maintain in the postseason, or do you drop in the postseason? With the KD, I'm exaggerating. He shot 60% from the field, 75 from three, 98% from the three. Do those percentages maintain in the playoffs, or do they drop? LeBron averaged 30 points. Do those 30 points drop, or do they keep the same? The same with Jokic. People were saying, Jokic is not a scorer because he averaged 24 points. Then in the playoffs, they went up to 30. This year, he's close to averaging 30. So it's a great discussion.
Yeah, it's the thing about, when you look at numbers in the regular season versus numbers in the playoffs, when you're in the playoffs, you are automatically playing against really good opponents, okay? Because to make the playoffs, you have to be a good team. Maybe not a great team, but a good team. And you're playing possibly, between 4 and 7 games against the same team each series, right? That's why the coaching comes much more important in the playoffs, because you have to find a way to stop these great players. So if a player is doing well in the playoffs and maintaining his numbers, or maybe even exceeding his regular season numbers a little bit, that shows you that it's not just empty numbers, because he's not getting points against the Washington Wizards. He's getting points against, the Sacramento Kings, or, good teams that can guard you. So to me, playoff numbers, because the level of competition is higher, the numbers should be treated more, given more respect, because of the kind of guys you have to score against.
Yep. That's the same thing that I thought when we were talking in my WhatsApp group. It's like in the playoffs, you see better competition. You go against a team within a series. Like you mentioned, you gotta go scout, you gotta prepare, and that's something obviously different from the regular season. You are playing one team, maybe you are playing him back to back, but it's not the same. And I completely agree with you with your take with the playoff success. And we also have some examples like Jimmy in the regular season, he's a good player, but in the playoffs he rises his level. So it's different things for different players. Let's get into this topic. We've seen the Wemby and Chet Holmgren Rookie of the Year race. It's gonna be obviously between the two of them. But I wanted to know your thoughts about Ausar Thompson. I think people have not talked about Ausar Thompson enough. Obviously, he's playing for the Pistons. They are, I think, last in the Eastern Conference. He also had players like Jalen Duren, Kate Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Killian Hayes, which I don't know why he's a starter, but that's a topic for another day. That's on the coaching staff. With Monty Williams. But what do you think about the Rookie of the Year race and Ausar Thompson in general?
Well, I know that you and I both probably felt going into the season that Scoot Henderson had a really good chance to be Rookie of the Year because he was going to play a lot of minutes. He was going to have the ball in his hands a lot. But of course, they got off to a bad start. He got off to a bad start. Actually, the team didn't get off to a bad start, but he did. Then he got hurt. So I don't think it's going to be him. But Ausar Thompson, you know, I haven't seen him play a lot. And you and I were talking about him a little bit before we started. I think you mentioned that he's done a really good job grabbing offensive rebounds, which is a great, you know, that's a great important skill. It helps your team get extra possessions. But, you know, I always thought offensive rebounds, sometimes you can look at them another way. When you're on a team that can't make a shot, okay, there's a lot more offensive rebounds available. So if, you know, if you're good and you get yourself in position, you're going to grab your share of them. And that's a very important skill. And it's something that I think is a good sign for him moving forward, that he is an aggressive offensive rebounder and he's learning that skill. So good for him. And, you know, I really like what I've seen out of Wembanyama so far. Brandon Miller has had a few good moments, okay, but their team's not so great either. Right now, if I had to say, I think, you know, you like Ausar, I'd say right now, if you know, we're not, well, we're 10% through the season, right? So
it's early, too early.
It's too early. But when you look at what Wembanyama is doing out there, you can just see, I mean, you know, he's headed, you know, I'm not going to say he's headed for the Hall of Fame. You never know what's going to happen. Guys get hurt, whatever. But the early signs on that guy are really, he's really special. I mean, his set of skills are unique. I mean, I haven't seen them in one guy anywhere else, maybe ever.
Even though some people say that we've seen Wembanyama before Wemby, Bol. We saw Thon Maker. Even Shaq said that. I didn't agree with Shaq, but it is what it is.
Well, you know, I mean, look, Wembanyama, he's 19 years old. He's going to get bigger and stronger. He's going to hit the weight room, you know. But already you can just see he's got good footwork. He can run the floor. He's got decent hands. And you don't see guys challenging him at the basket because he's going to block their shot. So, you know, that's something that, I mean, and, you know, he's playing for the right coach there in San Antonio because he's following in the footsteps of David Robinson and Tim Duncan, two Hall of Fame big men. And he's, you know, he's playing in that same system for the same coaching, you know, style and all that. So, yeah, the upside on Wemby is amazing. And maybe Scoot, you know, if he comes back later in the season and plays well, he's not going to win Rookie of the Year, though. So that's one of my predictions that's going to be wrong.
I feel relieved by the fact that you also thought that Scoot Henderson was going to be the most ready rookie in the NBA this year. So I'm not alone. I'm not alone. But, you know, that's another important thing. It's like to voice your opinion. It's like some people sometimes they like to repeat what they heard from other people, from other podcaster or broadcaster or NBA insiders. But sometimes you gotta express your opinion, and if you're wrong, but that's okay. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're wrong about some things, but you and I both going into the season thought that Oklahoma City was going to be much improved. We both agree there. I said going into the season that I didn't think Houston was going to make the playoffs, but I thought they were going to overachieve based on what people were saying about them. And right now they got a 6-game winning streak. Okay. Now, granted, all 6 of the wins were at home, but they did beat Denver for one of those wins. And I really liked what they did in the offseason, you know, bringing in, you know, some veteran guys, you know, like Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks and Jeff Green, and Ime Udoka to coach that crew. He's a good coach. You know, it's too bad what happened in Boston, but, you know, you knew he was going to get another chance. I mean, look, people deserve a second chance, and you know, he's making the most of it. So, yeah, and I also thought Indiana was going to be pretty good going into the season. Like yourself, I love Tyrese Halliburton. Some of those no-look passes that he threw against Philadelphia last night, you know, Obi Toppin is just like living off of his assists. I mean, Obi's running the floor, Tyrese is finding him, and Opie's just dunking it. He doesn't even have to shoot it too hard. He just hits him right in stride and boom. So, look, we're wrong sometimes, but I think you and I are right more than we're wrong, but nobody's perfect.
Nobody. That's a fact. And I try to obviously predict some things. Like I said yesterday in my show, I said we need to give more minutes to Jalen Pickett. And who was the first sub yesterday for the Denver Nuggets? Jalen Pickett. And like I said this on my show today, it's like we had a little platform, and we are doing some things, and we are talking about things that are developing, not only talking about like when things happen, So we always trying to get better, and like you said, we are right most of the times, but nobody's perfect. The last question that I got to you, I don't want to take advantage of your time. The referees, I've seen a lot of offensive foul calls, like you cannot lower your shoulder into the defender. The last couple of years with Jordan Poole specifically, I remember that game on Miami when they called like 3 or 4 carrying violations. And now with the taunting penalty, like in football. But like you mentioned, when Anthony Edwards dunked on Dario Saric, they call a technical foul. We've seen the flopping to obviously added to the rules this year. And I think Monty McCutcheon had some nice word. I don't know if you saw them. He said what we do know historically is that taunting gone unchecked leads to altercation. It leads to an increase in physicality. It leads to more, to put it kindly, passionate play. What do you think about these taunting penalties or technical fouls?
It's hard to argue with taunting being a negative thing, okay? But some of the things they call taunting, I don't necessarily think are taunting. You mentioned when we were talking before the show when Giannis dunked on Isaiah Stewart and he gave him the too small thing.
Yeah.
That's not taunting. That's playing around a little bit. Isaiah Stewart is not small. He's a big dude, right? He's not as big as Giannis. So Giannis was playing around with him a little bit. Look, Giannis plays it clean. He's not a dirty player. He's not a bad guy. So I thought that was kind of lame. And then I'm watching last night, early in the game, when Draymond Green put Rudy Gobert in a headlock, and
that was crazy.
And McDaniels grabbed Klay Thompson's jersey or whatever. I thought that the referees sort of handled that one correct. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit more discipline from the league coming off of that stuff. But then there was a play in the Lakers-Grizzlies game where
with AD.
Yeah, with AD, just kind of flung that guy to the floor.
Yeah.
I thought that should have been a double technical on him and see you later. I thought that was really an angry, unnecessary play. They gave him a technical. They gave him both a technical. The other guy's down on the floor, like looking up at the sky, and it was like
Santi Aldama, right? Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, Santi Aldama. And I was like, now I thought they should have been a little bit tougher on AD. And look, I respect AD. I think he's a Hall of Fame player. But I thought, wow, that just seemed really unnecessary. And I would have, I would have done a little bit more. Maybe not a double technical, but maybe a flagrant foul instead of just a technical foul. Something a little bit more than just, all right, that's a technical on both you guys. It was like, so, but for the most part, the best referees do their best to try and not make themselves the story. And I don't see that part as a problem. I mean, they used to be like Joey Crawford was a veteran referee for a long time. He used to always like to be in the center of attention. He was a great ref, but he always wanted people to know who he was out there. I think the best refs are the ones that are sort of like, I don't want to be the story.
Did Joey Crawford went back and forth with Rasheed Wallace, I think, in one instance?
He went back and forth with Tim Duncan one time. He actually threw Tim Duncan out of a game when Duncan was just kind of sitting on the bench. And he maybe, Tim might have, said something like that. And Joey, with his rabbit ears heard it and tossed him out of the game. So, But a lot of people said Joey Crawford was one of the best referees in the league. But, you know, he had a big ego and, you know, he liked everybody to know, hey, Joey Crawford's calling the game today. Most of these guys, I think, and women, there are a lot of women refs now, or at least a few, they don't really want to be the center of attention. And that's good. I mean, that's how it should be. Nobody pays to watch a ref.
Yeah, that's right on point. And like in life in general, we got different standards for different players. Because if would have been for yelling at the ref, Luka should be ejected every single time. He's crying like a baby to the refs. I don't like it. I really like Luka. I hate when people say that he's overrated. I don't understand it. But I don't like that. With Draymond, the same thing. He will be ejected every single game because he's talking trash to the ref, and they got a different leeway, right? Maybe with the refs, and they got a benefit of the doubt that other players don't have.
Yeah, I mean, one of my complaints prior to this year with Jason Tatum, who's one of my favorite players, I'm a Celtics fan, I mentioned that before, he complained all the time. And I thought to myself, Jason, just like, you know, ease up on that stuff, because guess what? The more you complain to these refs, the less chance you're going to get the benefit of the doubt. If it's a 50-50 call, it could be a charge, it could be a block. If you're always complaining to the ref, they're going to be in their mind thinking, all right, it's on you, it's not on the other guy. Well, this year, he's toned it down completely. I haven't seen him arguing with the referees at all, and he's getting a lot more calls. Now, maybe because he's a superstar now and a first-team All-NBA guy, he's getting more respect from the referees. But keeping his mouth shut, and in general, the whole Celtics team, they could be a little bit of a whiny sometimes, you know, but they've cut it out. And I think it's definitely helped them with the refs.
Yeah, and obviously there are different ways that you can work the ref. Jokic, obviously he complains a lot, but it's different. He does it more in like a mature way rather than Luka. To me, Luka is like a little kid that you take one toy away, he start crying and throwing tantrums.
Yeah, waving his arms. And
yeah, it's crazy. And he comes from a different culture. Obviously, he's from Slovenia and he played in Spain, where he's very passionate about the sport and it's different. But we have to deal with that. And players have to be smart too, because they are. I can understand if you're a rookie, or maybe you had 1-2 years in the league, but these are players that have been in the league for 5, 6, 7 plus years. So they have to know that too. We cannot only put the responsibility on the refs, like to be a little more light with the calls. I think it's also responsibility from the players, that they should try to be mature and like you said, try to tone down the yelling, the whining, and asking for fouls, because when a refs give you a foul, you're not gonna tell them, oh, don't give it to me, I don't need it. But in the other case, if you don't get the call, you're gonna whine and you're gonna yell at the ref. So it's a never-ending story. But hopefully they can tone it down. Man, it has been a pleasure once again. Thanks for being here. This is your second time here on my podcast. I really, really appreciate it. I'm very thankful. I'm very honored to have you here and to talk with you about basketball. That means the world to me, man.
I really appreciate you inviting me, Mario. I really think, we always have good conversations. Like I told you, you really know your material, and it's so much fun to be able to just kind of meet new people, get new perspectives on stuff. It's good that we agree on a lot of stuff, because, that just reminds us both, that we're not so stupid when it comes to this stuff. We know a little, we know a little bit, and I hope the folks that watch your show enjoy our conversations. If you need me to come back down the road, just reach out, let me know. It's always fun talking with you. I love our conversations, and I'm here when you need me. So don't hesitate to call and let me know if you want to talk some more at some point.
Man, that means a lot to have you like a person that I can talk about basketball, ask you questions, and have you here on my show. We had some comments here from my homies. They were saying shout out to 48 minutes. Mario, he's saying Mario is it's another level. Very good, bro. Closer, you're getting close to excellence. Wow, thank you, appreciate that. Hello from Chile, Raf Jones. Shout out to Raf Jones. Shout out to everybody. Lakers Nation from Chile here. Wow, he's a LeBron supporter, you know. But man,
is he gonna be mad about what I said about Anthony Davis last night?
Hopefully he doesn't get mad, but you know, it is what it is. We had to deal with that, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So, man, it has been a pleasure. It's an honor to have you here, to learn from you, and to talk with you about basketball. So hopefully we can have you in the near future, maybe post All-Star game.
Yeah.
So don't forget, go and subscribe to 48-Minute Podcast. They do amazing content. Obviously, they know a lot about basketball, and they are really good at communicating that, because you can have a lot of knowledge, but if you don't have the ability to give that to other people and to learn that, it's different. But once again, thank you to everybody. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like this video. Don't go and subscribe to 48 Minutes. We had Bruce Bernstein here with us. So until next time, everybody, I'm out. I'm Mario. This is the Mario Operandi podcast, and this has been the latest edition of this show. So until next time, I'm out. Thanks to Bruce, and thanks to everybody for being here with us. Peace.